Chapter 8. On the other side of the park, Alan and Lex had managed to scramble down the cliff. It had stopped raining, and now they were looking up at the tree. The car was still stuck in the branches, but it didn't look very secure. A branch broke. The car fell a few feet. Then it stopped, held up by more branches. Lex was shaking. She could barely breathe. Her brother was up there. Please let Timmy be okay. Please let Timmy be okay, she kept telling herself. I have to go help your brother, Alan said to her. Lex shook even more. She didn't want to be left alone. Gennaro had left them alone, and look what happened. Alan wanted to comfort her, but he didn't know how. Feeling clumsy, he patted her on the head. Lex threw her arms around his waist and wouldn't let go. Alan looked around. A large drain pipe ran along the ground. He led Lex over to it. Shh, I'll take care of you, he told her. I'm not going to leave. Just stay here for a few minutes while I help Tim. You'll be okay. Alan coaxed Lex a bit more, and finally she crawled into the pipe. Alan made sure Lex was safely inside, then he walked back to the tree. He took a deep breath and began to climb. Up, up, up. The tree seemed unbelievably tall, but at last he reached the car. Carefully, Alan opened the driver's door. Tim was huddled on the other side, hugging his knees. His face was streaked with blood and tears. He looked so frightened. Alan's heart went out to him. I threw up, said Tim, ashamed. That's okay. Just give me your hand. Tim didn't move. Come on, Tim. I won't tell anyone you threw up. Just please give me your hand. Tim reached out, but just as Alan got hold of him, the car lurched, and Tim tumbled out the door. He fell against Alan, and they both dropped down a few branches. Now they were right below the car. Suddenly, they heard a groan. The branch that held the car was giving way. Let's go, said Alan. Together they half climbed, half fell down the tree. Snap, snap. More branches broke. The car was falling. It was heading right for them. They jumped. Alan and Tim hit the ground, hard. But the car was almost on top of them, so Alan grabbed Tim and rolled to the side. A second later, the car landed, right where they had been. The car stood upright, its roof inches from Alan and Tim. Suddenly, it tipped over. Tim squeezed his eyes shut. After all that, the car was still going to fall on them. Thud! Tim felt a rush of air, but that was all. How strange, he thought, opening his eyes. Then he realized he was inside the car. They were saved by the hole in the sunroof. Alan brought Tim over to the drain pipe where Lex was hiding. Then he peered inside. Lex was curled into a ball, shaking with fright. She was too terrified to crawl back out. Come on, Lex, Alan said in a soothing voice. Hiding isn't the answer. We have to get moving and improve our situation. Lex just stared at him, not budging an inch. Tim rolled his eyes. Lex could be so ridiculous. Alan tried again. Tim's out here. He's okay. Still, there was no response. Then Alan tried something else. Of course, you could just wait in there while we go back and get help. Yeah, Tim said quickly. Let's go. You'll probably be safe alone, Alan went on, but I couldn't say for sure. You're a liar, shouted Lex. You said you wouldn't leave. I'm using psychology on you, said Alan. Lex just kept staring at him. Didn't he know things like psychology never work? Alan took a deep breath. Okay. We're going to walk back. Together. But we won't go near the road. The T-Rex probably staked that out as a feeding range. That means this whole paddock is empty. It's safe. So we'll walk through here. What do you say? In answer, Lex crawled out of the pipe. Alan sounded so sure of himself. He made everything seem okay. But then as they began to walk, Alan made a mistake. He kept talking. Might be a little slow going, but can't be more than 3 or 4 miles to the visitor center. Maybe the T-Rex is done feeding. No, let's not kid ourselves. A carnivore can eat 25% of its weight in just one sitting. So really, it's probably just up to the main course, and Alan stopped in mid-sentence. Both kids were in the drain pipe now. Back in the control room, Mr. Hammond, Ray Arnold, Robert Muldoon, and Ellie, who had gotten a ride back from Dr. Harding, had realized that Nedry was gone for good. Without him, they couldn't turn the power back on, so there was nothing else to do. They had to go into the jungle and search for the others. Now, Ellie and Muldoon were driving down the dark park road. Hurry, 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 Ellie said to Muldoon. She had a feeling that something terrible had happened. At last, they came to the broken Tyrannosaurus fence. Oh no, cried Ellie. Things looked worse than she'd imagined. One electric car was gone. The other was empty, its doors hanging open. Muldoon ran over to the wrecked building. Then he saw Gennaro's body and stopped short. Roar! They could hear the Tyrannosaurus in the distance. Ellie joined Muldoon, frightened. The T-Rex could be anywhere, Muldoon said to her. Suddenly they heard another sound, but this one was human. It sounded like a moan. It's Malcolm, Muldoon cried. Ian Malcolm was half buried under the rubble. He was alive, but he was in bad shape. He was barely conscious, and one leg was covered with blood. Roar! The Tyrannosaurus was closer now. Can we risk moving him? Ellie asked. Please, risk it, Malcolm croaked. Carefully, they carried him to the back seat of the Jeep. Then Ellie went back to the empty car. She wouldn't give up. Desperately, she looked for clues. What could have happened? Look, she said. There were 3 sets of footprints. Alan and the kids were alive. Roar! The Tyrannosaurus was getting closer. The earth shook with each thundering step. The booming noise grew louder, faster. Still, Ellie couldn't leave the spot. Maybe Alan was nearby. She had to find him. Suddenly, the Tyrannosaurus burst onto the road, charging right at her. Come on! Shouted Ian with all his might. Ellie leaped into the Jeep. Muldoon was already behind the wheel. He hit the gas, and they were off. But the Jeep was slow to pick up speed, and the Tyrannosaurus was coming after them, fast. Ellie looked back. It was closing the gap. The Jeep smashed through branches and careened over rocks. Again, Muldoon floored the gas. Finally, the Jeep picked up speed. The T-Rex fell behind, then faded from sight. For a few moments, they drove in silence. Then Ian gave a little laugh. Think they'll have that on the tour? He asked.